You're listening to the Run for Your Lives podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And this is the Run for Your Lives podcast.
This episode, we are talking about the 1978 zombie horror film, written, directed, and edited by the late George A. Romero, released April 13th, 1979. Yes, it was released in 1979, but it is considered the 78 Dawn of the Dead, all the production and stuff there. And this is our first... I still don't have an official name. We never really decided on it, but...
No, we didn't.
I am liking calling it a double dip for some reason, is where my brain goes.
Okay.
So for now, that's the working title of this, because I think we'll do this a few more times. So
yes,
we don't even have to get to when we do feedback later at the end of this episode. Be like, well, what's coming up next? We're going to tell you right off the bat, because that's what we're doing is this double dip of Dawn of the Dead. That's a lot of D alliteration, but because we'll just go ahead and say, because our favorite, I mean, we know we love zombies here, of course. Me and Daphne met through a Walking Dead podcast, Patreon group, and all those things for those who don't know. And so big Walking Dead fans, big zombie fans. And it all started with the incredible George A. Romero and his, I mean, he created the zombie movie. The Night of the Living Dead was...
Yes, he did.
Was like kind of the first of its kind. And then just everything that spawned from that. And so I think it's fun that our favorite zombie movies of the genre, Daphne's is the 1978 Dawn of the Dead. And then my favorite of all time is actually the 2004 Zack Snyder remake of Dawn of the Dead. And so we figure, since both of our favorite zombie movies are the same movie, except the different versions of them apart, then this is a good way to jump into this double dip thing that I'm doing. Or I came up with that name, I guess, but I'm sticking with that name. But this double dip thing that we're doing where we will do both movies back to back. So this week we are covering the 1978 original version. And then next week we will be talking about the 2004 remake of Dawn of the Dead and kind of comparing it to this one in those notes as well. And so I think this will be a lot of fun.
Yeah, me too. I certainly appreciate the 2004 version as well. I liked Zack Snyder's take on it. I think when you try to compare the two, it's difficult given the technical or technological capabilities at the time that this film was made. However, I think it's easy to see some of the influences that this 1978 version had on the 2004 version, and I'm looking forward to us getting into that and discussing it. That will mostly be on next week, I think. Kind of. Yeah.
I might have a couple little teases in my notes tonight about it, but I'd leave all of it to talk about next week. Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be fun. Like Peg said, we both love Dawn of the Dead. For me, this movie is what started my love affair with zombies. My sister and I would go to the video store and rent it so many times that my mom would just look at us and say, "This again, really?" But we loved it. And my sister still talks about it now, too. She's like, "Oh, Dawn of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead." So, yeah, this is one of our favorites. It's definitely my favorite zombie film. And
then I
just love
grew
it.
up a little bit in a different era. But yeah, that's...
yes, you did.
But it's a very similar thing. I mean, my first foray into zombie stuff, and I've gone back and watched the actual legit Romero stuff after that, but my first jump into zombie stuff was the remake of Dawn of the Dead in 2004, and it's that same thing. I mean, me and my friend would rent it just constantly over and over until finally I got a copy that I bought from a movie rental place. I was like, just charge me for it to keep. And yeah, I love it so much. And so we would watch it over and over again. Me and my one of my best friend as a kid, we would sit there and we'd be playing board games or doing other stuff, and we would just have it running, and we would just be saying the lines with it as it was going. We just had it memorized. We just knew. And so we'd like be playing, and then like the movie would end, and then we would just hit play and we'd watch the whole thing again, have it running with commentary, and we would be like playing, and they'd be like, oh, I didn't know that. That's cool. And then like the commentary version would end, and we'd be like, all right, back again, and we would just do like all the bonus features, and then after that it was like, all right, and then just hit play again. It would just run constantly, and I could just quote the whole thing, and it was.
It's hard for me to imagine that there's a movie you could quote better than Scott Pilgrim versus the World. But I guess if there is another one, this would be it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's pretty cool.
Next week will be my super nerd out on that one, because
yes.
This one I'm not as well versed in, but 2004 for sure.
Yeah, it's my world. I really can't convey enough how much I love this movie and how it really, I don't know what it is about it. I know it's the zombies. I think I like that it took place in a mall. I think the whole thing I just loved it right from the beginning. And I think, at one point, I think it's Peter who says, when there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth. Mm-hmm. I just, is it the best movie with the best dialogue ever? Probably not, no. But
that line. And that line. I'm not going to say anything else really except for that will come back. I promise. In a very fun, special way. But we will save that till next week.
Oh my goodness. And now I'm so intrigued and I have no idea what he has planned. So I'm just going to hope that it is as cool as I think it will be, I guess. I guess we'll see next week.
Yeah, that line will come back very special.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess it's just about time to kind of get into it. I will make a little quick addendum or whatever, just for those listening. My recording setup tonight a little different. I was too lazy to go into my usual little studio area, so I'm set up in my living room. I live next to a highway, so if you pick up any traffic sounds, we're doing this a little like later at night recording, so hopefully there won't be any. But if you hear them, that's why, because I don't feel like moving. I've already got my whole setup in here, so I'm staying.
It sounds fine so far, so I don't think that there'll be a problem.
Yeah.
We've done this before. So, yeah, we've done this in a pinch before. So, yeah, it's cool. All right, well, let's get started then. So, Dawn of the Dead was filmed in Monroeville and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, with much of the movie taking place inside the Monroeville Mall, which is it's an actual mall that still exists today, although it looks really different. The skating rink isn't there anymore, and some of the stores are not there, obviously, because over time, stores open and close.
Yeah.
Production took place in 1978, but the film was released in 1979, except for Italy, where it was released on September 1, 1978. This is the only Romero film to contain the word zombie, although it can be heard on the radio in Night of the Living Dead.
This is the only one where a character drops it. Yeah.
Yeah, actually says it. The working title was Dawn of the Living Dead. I'm very glad they dropped the living part. I think Dawn of the Dead is much better. And that kind of affected the sequel movies that came after, too, which we'll talk a little bit about later. Because the living was not listed, wasn't part of it. The budget for this film was very small, $640,000, but it grossed $66 million. A lot of that was from worldwide box office receipts. It was very popular.
That's a profit.
It is. That's a profit. It is 126 minutes. That's for the United States release. And Pake, you know what comes next.
All right. Here's a little synopsis that I shamelessly just pulled from IMDb. Following an ever-growing epidemic of zombies that have risen from the dead, 2 Philadelphia SWAT team members, a traffic reporter, and his television executive girlfriend seek refuge in a secluded shopping mall.
I think that pretty well lays it all out, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's true to what happens in the movie.
Yeah.
Doesn't tell you everything, but gives you just enough to understand what the movie's about.
Yeah. Yep, it's zombies. They're in a mall. That's the biggest points.
Yes.
So, all right. So, of course, here at Run for Your Lives, we kind of like to go through characters and not necessarily tell you the story of the movie through the characters, but just our own notes and thoughts about character arcs and character points and things that are going on. So we'll talk about all the characters and kind of notes going along with what's going on with them. And then we'll have some fun and talk about the zombies and effects and things like that. We'll have some extra little notes. It'll be good. So, yeah. So the first credited character, even though I don't have very many notes about them, but we might as well start anyway. Flyboy himself, Stephen Andrews.
Yes. The traffic reporter himself.
Mm-hmm.
I knew he was obnoxious at times, but I really, in this watch, I just realized that he was kind of obnoxious in the way he hovered over Fly Girl, who was his girlfriend, Francine Parker. She goes by Fran. Although Roger, I think, is the one that gave them the nicknames Fly Girl and Flyboy.
Yeah.
It was in a conversation between Roger and Peter that they were first referred to as Flyboy and Fly Girl. It's interesting. I don't think Stephen understood that Fran was actually stronger than what he thought she was.
Yeah.
Even though, she did, break down a few times, but I feel like she, at some point, just finally said, you know what? I need to be able to learn how to fly the helicopter. There are things I need to do. Like, we need to be able to do this in case something happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know I said we're talking about Steven, but then this first note was about, like, Fran. But still, I like that, she kind of grew, because the movie did suffer a little bit from, like, the damsel in distress syndrome.
Yes.
At first, but then they really did grow her character, and she did become more capable and became a stronger character, and I liked that, for sure.
Yeah, me too. This was her first role. Like, she had never acted before. She got the role, and she had been taking acting classes, and she would take some of the scenes to her acting teacher. And the acting teacher would say, okay, Galen, what are the zombies doing to you this week? And I thought that was kind of cool, the way that she handled that. And Galen Ross, who played the part of Fran, she had ideas on the character. She didn't want her to be a damsel in distress.
Yeah.
She wanted her to be stronger, which is why you don't see Fran scream.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the script, she was supposed to scream. And George Romero, talked to her about it, and she basically laid it out to him and said, Fran is supposed to be a strong female character. She wouldn't do that. And so,
I like that.
Yeah, I like that. I like that George Romero was willing to listen to what, the actors had to say and kind of incorporate a little bit of that in. But yeah, she basically, she said, Fran is a strong female character. She'll lose her strength if she's screaming.
Yeah.
And then after that, he never asked her to scream again.
I love that. Yeah. Their nicknames again, Flyboy, Fly Girl. That is, of course, she was at the TV station. The movie kind of picks up at the TV station at the beginning.
Yes.
We just see pure chaos and pandemonium as they're dealing with what's going on in the world. That's where we get the amazing line, the people it kills get up and kill, which I'm so used to hearing on Walking Dead cast every week. So it's nice.
Yes. I heard that too. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I knew it came from that movie. But to hear it in the movie, it took me right back to Dead cast.
Yes. But yeah, so he's the air traffic,
he's kind of like this traffic reporter.
The traffic reporter for the news there. So he takes the helicopter and they head off because he's friends with Roger, I guess. And so they are going to go pick. So Roger and ends up Peter going along with him, kind of being like, yep, it's a lost cause. There's no need for us trying to police this situation anymore. We're bouncing. There's no point in trying to take care of this as a SWAT team member or a police officer or anything anymore. We're just gone. My friend's got a helicopter. We're getting the hell out of here. And yeah, so that's why I think...
I like that.
Yeah, they could call him Flyboy, Fly Girl, because they came in with the helicopter.
Flyboy. Yeah.
And then when they get there, which is where they land at the station to pick them up. And then there's like these other cops and stuff that are there that are threatening to hijack it. And then they just like don't, because they're like, wait, none of us know how to fly a chopper. You know what? Never mind. We're just going to go get on a boat like we originally planned. Have fun.
Except for the guy who wanted to know if they had any cigarettes.
Yeah.
That made me laugh. I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Which I thought it was funny. That's the first little.
And of course they did.
Yeah, of course. Everybody did. It's the 70s.
Yeah.
Even Fran, who was pregnant, was still smoking. Sign of the times alert there.
Still smoking. Yeah, but they told them no. They're like, no, we don't have any. But then when they got in the air, they were all smoking in the helicopter. And I'm just like, of course, yes.
Which, the first little parallel to, again, I said I'll make a couple teases to 2004, but we're not going to go into depth too much. But a group of people having the plan of getting on a boat and going away to an island is a plot point for the remake that they focused on a little bit more. So I do like that.
Yeah. One of the actors in this little group, the ones that were trying to get to the island, Joe Pilato, he actually went on to play one of the main characters in Day of the Dead, which was the third movie in this series of movies. Mm-hmm. And he came back as a character named Rhodes in Day of the Dead.
Nice.
Which they filmed it like 6 years later after this one, which was less time than it took him, Romero, to make Dawn of the Dead after making Night of the Living Dead, because that was like 10 years difference.
Night to dawn, dawn to day.
Yes. Day to land. Land to diary.
Diary to survival.
Survival, yeah. So many movies.
Yeah.
But again, not enough. I feel like there's more that he could have given us. It's too bad that we don't have him with us today.
Yeah. R.I.P. I was a sad day when George Romero died. I remember just needing a moment that day. Iconic. I mean, he influenced a lot of what I enjoy from like horror cinema and entertainment. And yeah, that was a blow a little bit. I mean, it wasn't super unexpected. I mean, he was getting pretty old, and I know he had been dealing with some stuff. So it was just one of those moments where you finally find you're like, yeah, that's sad. You know, let me have a moment.
Yeah, because I feel like he influenced so much more than just the zombie genre. I feel like he really influenced beyond that, because there were things that you could learn from the way that he looked at storytelling.
Yeah,
as well. I feel like sometimes he kept it very simple, and I liked that, because some movies can be so complicated that watching it gives you a headache. I feel like Romero just had a really good way of telling the story.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. So getting back to Fly Girl, Fly Boy, Peter and Roger.
Yep. What? Oh, I was confused. Wait. It sounded like you were trying to say the same people. Fly Boy and Fly Girl, Peter and Roger. Wait, what? No,
No.
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 But yeah, Stephen Flyboy Andrews. Like I said, I don't have a lot of notes on him other than just his whole story arc of being real bad at shooting.
Yes. Roger multiple times had to push him out of the way and take the shot.
It's just like, you know what? Let me handle it. And then Peter was like not gonna let him off the hook at first for a little bit, about being like, you pointed your gun, at a zombie,
at
but
me,
at me, like directly between.
Yes,
like what are you doing?
And he's a terrible shot. Like, you're pointing your gun at me, and you're a terrible shot.
Mm-hmm. Like he's just real bad with shooting, bad times, bad choices of shooting. Like even when at them all, like that's pretty much my only notes on him. I was like, yes. Like while he's down in that like kind of boiler room area, it's like, yeah, shoot the shadow of the zombie. That'll totally help. I'll do a lot of good.
Yeah, I think that, you can tell that Peter and Roger were SWAT officers. They were part of SWAT team.
Yeah.
Because, Steven definitely not gonna be part of any shooting situation.
The only time he starts having somewhat decent aim is when he starts shooting at the Raiders near the end of the movie and starts the shit war with them, and you're like, oh god.
Yes.
Like, and it's because he's like, well, this is our mall, we got it first, so now you guys get out. And like, well, now you have ruined everything. Good job.
Yeah, I feel like if they had just hidden stayed hidden, let them come in and do what they wanted to do, then they could reclaim the mall again. Because they'd done it once before. They could do it again.
Do you think the Raiders would have moved on? Or do you think they would have set up shop and stayed there if they weren't met with any opposition?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'd like to think that they would have moved on because it seemed like that was their way.
Yeah.
Was to just come in and take what they needed and leave. But they weren't just taking. They were destroying things.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that, Stephen and Peter they went and locked all of the stores. But it didn't take much for them to open them. It was actually barely a minor inconvenience.
It was, Actually, it was super easy. Barely an inconvenience. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have another one of those.
Oh, no.
You know what? Might as well just get it out of the way. That's new to this season, is just making a bunch of pitch meeting references that people who don't watch those are like, okay, guys, we get it. No, I had one is kind of at the end of the movie for Peter, but I'll go ahead and throw it out there now. He sends Fran to the chopper to go on without him. And I was like, he wants to stay. But why does he want to stay? Unclear. Fair enough. No
one knows why. But I do have some info on some of that to tell you at the end, because I did learn stuff even I didn't know about this film.
Nice.
So I'll share that at the end. It's kind of funny. I feel like, Pake, we're going to have to share, if we can find the pitch meetings for some of our movies, I feel like we're going to have to share them with our listeners on Facebook or somewhere so that they can see what we're talking about.
We just might have to. Yeah.
We might have to do that.
There's good ones. Yeah, but then my last note about Steven is just Flyboy's down. He goes down fighting, but he goes down.
Yes, he does.
Does not quite make it out of that elevator alive at the end.
No, he does not.
It's quite a fun. I mean, because we had already seen Roger go through the whole thing, and we'd seen him turn.
Yeah.
And so we know what's happening, but still, it's kind of a cool moment and reveal when one of the zombies hits the button on the elevator to open the door, and then bing, there's Zombie Steven. It's cool.
I started to wonder if maybe the Walking Dead Sophia coming out of the barn was like influenced by this, like reveal from the elevator. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying it was or it wasn't.
Yeah.
It just, when I saw it, it reminded me of that. Because I don't think I've watched Dawn it's been a while.
Yeah.
It may have even been, I don't know, 5 years or more. And I never thought of it that way before, but now I'm just wondering, was that influenced by that? Who knows? I don't know the answer to it. But
yeah.
Something I was thinking about.
Yeah. Yeah, could be. And I guess I'm going to go ahead and combine my notes with Fran and throw them in. We'll talk about the Fly couple to start with, and then we can circle back. But yeah, just some of my Fran notes. Unless you had some more on Steven you wanted to talk about.
No, mostly I remember liking Flyboy more in the earlier times that I watched it than I did this time. I think it's because I wanted Fran to be a strong character, and I feel like he was kind of trying to protect her so much.
Yeah.
That he didn't really look at how strong she actually was.
Yeah.
And so I got a little bit annoyed with him about it, but it doesn't mean I don't appreciate him. I like the idea of Fran being a stronger character than what Steven was really letting her be.
Yeah. And she did end up being strong. Like I did say, there was a little bit of that damsel in distress that at the beginning. And I think you can see the moment where she kind of decided, no, I'm going to be stronger. And then they changed it from there with her. Because the first time she really has to deal with zombies in the mall is when, Zen Zombie, credited as the Hare Krishna zombie. Oh,
that's the Hare Krishna zombie. Yes.
Makes its way up to her. And she just she has no weapon. She's useless against it. She's just kind of climbing up, just trying to get away. And I said, the guys luckily make it upstairs in time to save her from the tambourine player from the Blue Man Group. So, she...
Oh, boy. Wow.
So, yeah, she's doing it.
Oh, man.
And then we get the reveal, because she's kind of getting sick. So, at first I thought it was her being just kind of in shock or like the trauma of dealing with that zombie. But then they show that, she's pregnant. And so she's starting to feel bad and feel sick, which again, little tease, another big plot point for the remake of the movie as well is a pregnant lady.
Yes.
So, like that. Again, I'm a much more versed in that one. So a lot of me watching this and like picking up on things like, okay, that's where, okay. Like there's the connections. They took some of the smaller little things in this movie and then turned them into much bigger plot points, which is cool.
Yeah.
And then, I talked about like with her being pregnant, she's still smoking and drinking. I think that's just a 70s thing.
It is. Things are different now. We didn't know as much then as we know now about the effects on the fetus.
Yeah. I was like,
what those things can do.
Pregnant Franny. I was like, what is this? The Stand? But,
oh my gosh.
But she does get stronger and magically somehow gets pretty good with a gun. I will roll with it. I'm not going to complain about that because it's great. We got some good. I love a good just zombie shooting scenes and moments. So give the gun to anyone. Let them blast some heads. It's always great.
Yeah, she kind of told. She told them. She's like, yeah. I need a. They were all leaving and told her that she couldn't come until she learned to handle herself. And she said, well, I want a gun. Like, I can't stay here by myself without a gun.
Yeah.
So I appreciated her standing up for herself. It was also when she said, we need to learn how to fly this helicopter because what if something happens to him?
Mm-hmm.
She was really like starting to come into her own. And I like that. That was after the Hare Krishna zombie with the tambourine came up.
Tambourine player for the Blue Man Group. Yeah. I was so proud of myself writing that one. I make myself giddy with stupid jokes. But we get, a good little, a thing that I guess it's kind of a strength for her, but also it was an interesting choice, but I guess I respect it. I don't know. It was interesting. We get kind of a fancy romantic-ish dinner between Fran and Steven.
Yes.
Peter just kind of is their little maitre d' for the time. He serves them the food and then lets them, because, he's like, you two have some stuff to talk about. So he goes out to the garden to pour one out for the homie. And,
yeah, we'll get to that.
Basically, Fran, turns down a proposal from Steven with her reasoning being like, it wouldn't be real. I'm like, well, it'd be about as real as it ever could be, I'd say. I don't think the world's going back to where you're going to get a real wedding for a while, if ever.
Yeah, no.
But she's, I guess, kind of set in that way. It's like, what does that matter anymore? Just, we have more important things to worry about than wedding or, or you being married or whatever. It's like, we have to prepare for a baby first and foremost. Like, if we're going to decide what to do with that, and if we're, how that's got to go. Luckily, she's got an entire maternity store for herself to deal with that. That might make things a little easier. Or it would have.
Yeah, it's amazing, everything that they have at their disposal being in that mall. Because, she would be, at one point she's talking to them and said, well, I would have made you coffee, but I didn't have my pots and pans. So she makes a remark about not having her pots and pans, and she would have made them something, but she didn't have them. And I liked that, but I'm still thinking, you're not their caretaker. Don't be making them dinner. They can step up and do it too. Yeah,
because there's plenty of... I was a little like, why there was like a greenhouse and garden in a mall, I'm not sure. I don't think that's a typical thing, but...
No.
We'll roll with it. Again, there's a lot of...
maybe in the 70s. I mean, maybe in the 70s they had more of a, I don't know, produce palooza in the mall.
There was like a grocery store in that mall. So,
yeah, I think that still does exist in some places.
Yeah.
But so many malls have closed. That's a discussion for another day. Malls are just disappearing.
It was absolutely, raid the grocery store, especially. I'm into that, especially the cheese and the coffee choices. I was like, yes. Those are very important things.
Yeah. Can never have too much cheese.
No, never, ever. Or coffee. That's for me.
Yeah,
you're
I'll
not
leave
a
the
coffee
coffee
person.
to you. I am not a coffee person. I'll leave it all to you. But they had it, and she put it in a grinder. Like,
Oh,
there was
yeah.
a grinder grinding things up, and I'm just
Fresh
like,
ground
wow.
coffee. It's a pretty good deal.
Yeah. They had it made there. They really did.
Yeah. It was a good setup. Too bad it did not last, but never does.
Yeah. Never does. The good things always come to an end.
So do you have any more notes on, I feel like we're talking about superheroes, Flyboy and Flygirl, Steven and Francie?
I think overall I just really liked the way that her character developed throughout the movie. I liked that she started kind of scared, but then she became more in control of herself, was willing to do what she needed to do in order to protect herself and her baby.
Mm-hmm.
And, admitting to herself that, something could happen to Steven, and it is important for one of them to learn how to fly the helicopter.
Yeah.
I'm glad it was her, honestly, that learned, because, R.I.P. Roger, which we have not gotten to yet.
No.
He started to lose it at one point, and he was really, Peter was a really good sharpshooter, but so was Roger. Roger was really like the shooter for the group, and I don't know how Fran got to be such a great shot that she was, but
I guess they were in that mall longer than like you'd even think. Some time had passed. I know they were shooting mannequins in the skating rink for target practice, so
yeah,
she got a little practice in it sometimes.
She did. The skating rink is not in that mall anymore. That's one of the things that's different. I feel like it's a food court now.
Probably.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something else. It's not. I didn't go that deep into things because I could have gone down a rabbit hole with this movie. It's so easy for me because I love it. And I had to stop myself with some things just to keep it on topic and not go too deep.
Yeah.
So I think that we've covered Fran and Steven real well, which leaves us with Peter and Roger.
All right.
Yeah, the thing about this movie, though, is I feel like it was an ensemble and not really a main character. So I feel like as we go through the characters, the storytelling is just going to be a little bit different. It's not going to be like...
Oh, yeah. Bounce all over the place. We do it on.
We do. So who do we do first? I feel like we should do Roger.
All right.
He started really like calm, but then there was a point where he just started losing it and he started acting like erratic. And it was at that point that it put him really in danger because
like
he was kind of just... Yes. And then it basically cost him his life.
Yeah.
Because he was just being overconfident, and the things that he would say, perfect baby, when he gets, talking to Peter. And I liked his character a lot. He's the one who had to show Steven how to shoot. He would push him out of the way and then point the gun and shoot the zombie in the head. Because Steven just couldn't get it through his head that he needed to put the bullet through their head in order to make it work. So Roger was having to do that a lot.
Mm-hmm. He was very instrumental in like getting things set up. It was he was a lot of the planning on things. Really how we got to clear this stuff out. We got to get this. We got to get these supplies. Make sure we're set up here. But then we can find ways around. They had to make those plans of like getting back to their hideout without the zombies knowing where they were going.
Yes,
and I like that a lot.
Yeah. I feel like he and Peter worked together.
Yeah, definitely. A good team.
Yeah.
Yeah, when they're in the department store, I loved Roger's list of essentials. He's like, yeah, we got to get, the things. He goes, TV, radio, lighter fluid, chocolate. Like, yeah.
Yes. Of course. He was very practical, but he also understood having those comforts, the comfort food that you needed in order to survive. I don't blame him. It was better for Fran to be eating chocolate than to be smoking.
Yeah, for sure.
Just saying.
Yeah, but I think, he did get this kind of sense of overconfidence or a lot of things where he was having almost too much fun with the whole mall situation and everything that's going on, and it did kind of become his downfall. While they're moving the trucks to block the entrances, the main entrances and stuff, I mean, he was just having a blast with it. I swear, if Roger yeehaws one more time, I'm going to have a full-on brain aneurysm. That was enough of that.
He was so confident, and I feel like he just got reckless.
Yeah.
He got really reckless to the point where they're moving the trucks, and they're almost done, and he leaves his bag that he was using to kind of hotwire the trucks, I believe. Mm-hmm. He leaves it in one of the trucks, and he'd already had a close call.
Yeah.
And still, he was reckless. It's like, you're not going to live forever. You're not immortal, so these things can affect you. And, it was sad to see that recklessness cost him, because he did get bitten. At first, I think it was on the arm, and I'm thinking in my head, chop his arm off.
Yeah.
But then he was bit again, and it was just too much.
Yep.
There was nothing that they could do.
We're talking about that first close call with him. It's one of those, not a negative, don't worry, it's not going to be like last week. But it was like, there was a big continuity error in there that like I caught, that I was like, okay, wait a minute, it's throwing me off. Is, that close call or whatever. So Peter ends up blasting a zombie that's on Roger, and blood just goes all over his face and all over everything, and he's kind of weirdly overacting like he has no idea what blood is. Like, oh, what is this? That is on me. It was this weird moment.
Yeah.
And then, the zombie breaks the window, and then when he turns and shoots the zombie through the window, and then it cuts back, there's practically like no blood on him at all. Like, all of this blood he was just covered in is just gone. And I was like, what? Huh? Well, they shot this a couple of times and then pieced the wrong ones together. And then while they're driving the trucks back to the mall, there's like a little bit blood that like reappears on him, but still nowhere near. Mm-hmm. I was like, yeah, they pieced together like 3 or 4 different takes with different kinds of level of blood on him, and then didn't really have continuity in mind.
I know, but they did in several other cases, which is something I'll get to in my notes later. Because there are some cool things when I get into some of the effects that they paid attention to.
Yeah. Yeah, effects are great. Like, it's even by 70s standards, but even outside of that, just in general, like a lot of the practical effects and squib stuff and like, so good.
Yeah. Tom Savini, he's a master when it comes to this. And he was influenced by some great people. And he's influencing the next generation and the generation after that now. And appreciate that.
You've been in a Zoom call with Tom Savini before, and I'm jealous of you for that.
Yes. Yes. My friend Mark and I attended a trivia event that the George A. Romero Foundation put on. And we finished second. But Tom Savini was there and asking questions, and we got to talk to him, so it was a lot of fun.
So cool. So cool. Legend. I'll forever be jealous about that one.
You know who else was there?
Yep.
Doug Bradley.
I do. Yep.
AKA Pinhead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So cool.
Not something I ever expected was going to happen, but it was a lot of fun. I forgot about that. I'm glad you brought it up. Yeah, Tom Savini is wonderful.
He's amazing.
He was actually asking questions in the round, but he also was talking to people because he and our friend Mark had a really good conversation there and about different things. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was just kind of surreal just to be a fan of Romero is to be a fan of Savini, because they, especially in the early years, were hand in hand.
Absolutely.
So much. And
I say Romero had the characters in the story, and Savini had all of the effects and visuals that you had. Like I said, peanut butter and chocolate, man, like together.
Yeah.
It's just the perfect mix of those two.
Yeah, Savini was able to think on his feet so much. And they had to with this. Like, they had to at times, Because as I'll get into later, there's a lot that went into this movie that I don't know that people realize. And Savini just oftentimes had to think on his feet. And he did more in this movie than just the effects. And I mean, he was Blades, okay?
Yeah,
he was
in the movie.
He's in the movie. He did a lot of other things too. So I have some notes on that under production that I will read at that time. There's so much that I wish in some way I had done all of those notes first so that we could talk about the film after that. But there's just so much I want to share once we get to that point.
So yeah, back on the notes on Roger. Yeah, unfortunately, I think I know where you might have been going with that. Like you say, he's been bitten, and we just see that Peter is aware of that. Aware of what that means. It's been a thing enough where there's kind of training involved, and they know what's going on. But he's bitten in a way that the infection takes a while to set in. So Roger's able to help out a little while longer. He gets set up in the wagon. Whee! Just gets to get pushed all over the place, shooting his guns and going out in style.
He hot wires that little car, that Volkswagen that they drive around in the mall. Oh my God. Can you imagine driving a car around in the mall?
Yeah, I don't think they typically have the mall cars probably typically don't have the keys anywhere near them, I would assume. But
no.
Again, I'll go with it.
Can you imagine? I mean, I've seen cars in malls, but I haven't been in a mall, Pake. It's been at least, oh my God, 20. It may have been 2 years ago that I was in a mall. I don't remember being in a mall. I mean, with the pandemic and everything, I wasn't in a mall before that.
Yeah.
For 6 months. So it's been a long time. But I do remember cars being in the mall.
Yeah.
And I wonder what it's like to drive around in the mall. I wouldn't want a car, though. I feel like a golf cart would be better. Easy to get in and out of. Drive right into the store, I guess. I don't know. That's another cool tangent.
A really cool effect to have him driving back and forth with that Volvo.
Yes, I loved it.
It's great stuff. Yeah, which again, character being bitten and then them having to deal with that. Again, it's a parallel of the two versions of the movie, but also I was like, well, it's also a parallel with every single zombie movie in existence, if I'm being honest. It's kind of a necessary moment in any zombie movie is dealing with someone who's been bit.
Well, the infection, I mean, even though I know that there are folks that don't believe 28 Days Later and movies like that are zombie movies, they're more like virus movies or infected or whatever. But it's all the same. You get bitten and it causes an infection that kills you or it kills you and turns you into this or just turns you into it. So either way, Peter had said at one point that he had never seen anyone live more than 3 days.
Yeah.
And so they did have some, they were able to get some things with Roger. They had more time with Roger, but he does succumb to the infection and dies.
Yeah.
And Peter waits for him to wake up as a zombified Roger.
Mm-hmm.
And then he shoots him in the head so that he doesn't have to be a zombie because that was his request. He did not want to be one.
Yeah.
I can't think of anyone who does want to be one. It was really sad. I liked Roger.
You don't see many people requesting now let me come back and walk around.
Yeah. I want to walk around and be dead. No, I don't see that happening. Definitely not. I feel like with Roger, like we talked about, he was calm. Then he just started losing it. He just started getting reckless, and that in the end cost him. But someone that I feel like stayed level-headed throughout the entire film was Peter.
Yeah.
Played by the great Ken Foree, who has been in a bunch of different movies.
He's a legend in horror, mainly because of this movie.
Yes.
This is what really got him there for sure.
Yeah, he still does a lot of conventions too, I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he's been in a lot of, Ken Foree's been in a bunch of horror movies. He was in The Devil's Rejects. He was also in Rob Zombie's Halloween movie. He's been in a bunch of different things, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, going way, way back. And another film that I will share when we get to production notes. So he's kind of a legend, Ken Foree. And Peter was a character that I feel like was really calm and level-headed the entire time. When everyone else was going crazy around him, he was the one that kind of tried to keep things grounded. And he did a really good job of that, except things got out of control when the bikers came, and he couldn't get Steven under control. Because Steven went crazy and wanted to, shoot everybody up. And he tried to get him to not go do that. I mean, Peter looked at the big picture. And I feel like Steven was hot-headed and was reactionary to situations without really thinking sometimes.
Yeah. Although when we are... so I guess we're moving on to Peter. Because best for last. He's my favorite character. But when we're introduced to Peter, it is very much him being impulsive. But also in a really good way. Because it is Peter who shoots Wooly, who is
Wooly,
racist scumbag cop. Good for him. And then we even get Roger kind of being like, I didn't see anything. He's totally okay with it, because we kind of at first are following Roger, seeing what's going on with that. Because I was just my notes while watching the beginning part was too bad the innocent young blonde cop got capped because I wanted racist cop to get blasted instead. Somebody kill racist cop, please. This fucker is just happily going room to room, blasting people. Blew this guy's head off.
Yes.
From the moment he opened his mouth on the roof, I was like, somebody shoot him. In this shootout, I kept waiting for a bullet to hit him. Damn it. And then
that's okay.
Peter steps in with his gas mask and blasts him through the door. And I was like, finally, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Again, it's a sign of the times at that time, but it's still kind of relevant today.
Yeah. But even then he was played off. You were supposed to hate him from the moment he starts dropping these racial slurs and stuff. And he's just, you can tell. And then they show him happily just shooting innocent living people because he thinks he can get away with it. It's somebody take this guy out. And so when Peter does, and then you set up Peter as the hero of this movie, you cheer for that. You're yay, good times.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And it kind of builds this friendship or alliance between Peter and Roger. And I liked that. I liked how things were interwoven together and how Romero helped us meet these characters and then tell their stories.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked how it was constructed, and I liked Peter too. I remember originally Flyboy and Flygirl were my favorite characters in this film, but then I started to really enjoy the other ones as well. So over time, I guess that's changed. The number of times I've seen this movie, I can no longer count on my fingers or toes. But I liked Peter a lot because I felt like he was the calming influence that they needed. Even though, as you said, he's reckless in the beginning.
We start off with him being very impulsive and but it's almost not even impulsive. It's knowing he has to do the right thing. He's making a decision.
Yeah. And he did. He took Wooly out.
Mm-hmm.
And he and Roger, bonded over the situation and talking about whether or not they should run or Roger should run. Roger asked him, I have the opportunity to run. What do you think about that? And then over the next 10 minutes of the movie, I think they both just decide, running is a good idea. Let's get the hell out of here because this is not the place we want to be in, because they go to the basement and there are all these bodies and people that have died and reanimated. And it was gruesome. Yeah. And then they walk into I think it was the basement area, and they see everything. They really see everything after the priest has said, well, I've given them the last rites. Well, some of them had the last rites not at that time. They'd had the last rites a few days ago because they had already reanimated and they were already eating.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it was pretty gross.
Yeah, but I like Peter being one of those characters, like that person who did take time to enjoy the small things and the little lucky things. Some examples of that, of course, is like when they stop to try to refuel at the little, like the hangars on the ground, which I love that scene. That'll come up later because there's a lot of good zombie notes in there. But like, you know, the out of order coffee machine, him just banging on it and then it working at least one more time. I was like, enjoy the little bit of good luck that's left in the world, man.
Yeah. Not a lot, but
yeah, you can see his moment. He's like, oh, good. You know, and he takes the coffee. Like, he's like, all right, like this is a good moment. And then at the mall, taking that time, like he's very gung-ho about like, we can do this. This is a place we can stay. Like, you know, we've seen how they're spread out downstairs. Like, if we do it right and we plan correctly, we can clear this place out. We can make this really kind of a home. And they do. They systematically kind of take everything out once they get the doors locked off and things like that. And then I love them taking advantage, again, those small things of like everything the mall has to offer. You know, I talked about the groceries and stuff, but even like other things, you know, playing with the sports stuff, him playing basketball, or we get Steven with the golf ball like down the alley and stuff, but they're in the arcade, you know, getting haircuts, fancy fur coats, everything. They're like, you know what?
Yeah.
Take advantage of it and enjoy what we're in. Even though it's a horrible, terrifying situation, enjoy the little things and the good moments.
Yeah. I agree. I liked seeing those little moments. I liked when they went in the bank and took a bunch of money, and then they look up and there is the camera and it takes a picture of them holding the money up, and I'm just like, yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, they never took more than what they needed or what would make them happy or comfortable, which was a huge contrast to what the bikers did when they came in, and they were just taking and destroying everything. Yeah. They would take a whole bunch of stuff and destroy what they left behind. And that was a big difference. Yeah.
I mean, the money that they took was just so they had enough to have a convincing little game of poker going on later where they're like, hey, we can feel like some high rollers for a second. None of it means anything. Yeah. This money's actually useless, but it's fun.
But it's fun. It makes us feel a little bit normal, which I think we can all relate to when we get to do something like, you know, just generally based on what's happened in our world over the last, 18 months. When you get to do something a little bit normal, you just feel better. It gives you that feeling inside that when you get to do something normal, it just makes you feel so much better. And I think that they, in this situation, made the best of the situation they were in.
Yeah.
By going shopping. And who wouldn't want to go on a shopping spree in a mall by yourself?
Right.
I know. I mean, I think that's one of the things my sister and I liked about this movie when we were younger, is that we just thought it was cool to be able to be in a mall and go in all the stores and have no one there to tell you no. Like, you could just go in and pick out what you wanted. Because I think there's this general misconception that people would just go hog wild in a mall and get all of this stuff and hoard it. But for me, I think I would just go in and get the things I really wanted and leave the rest. Because why would you need it? You know, I would just get the things that would make me happy and not like go overboard.
Mm-hmm.
Not hoard it. Not hoard everything.
Right. So yeah, I think the only other really note I had on him is I mentioned it earlier that my other pitch meeting quotation. Why would he do that? Unclear. But it's kind of, at the end, he sends Fran off to the chopper, and then he wants to stay for reasons. But then last minute changes his mind because other reasons, which you said you might have something to help me with that.
I do. I have something interesting. There was an alternate ending for this film.
Nice.
It was never filmed, but parts of it were. So cool, I can explain that later.
Yeah. But I do like that he ends up going, because it's a good little ending of the movie, other than like them just following the zombies, just retaking over the mall and the crazy carnival kind of music going over it, which is fun. But, our last moments with our characters, I think it's great. Yes, he changes his mind. He climbs up on the roof. He karate kicks a few rooftop Zeds, hops in the chops, skedaddles out of there. It's great.
Yeah. He's super strong. Like, I never had
Yeah.
any doubts about Peter because he was really strong. And one of the things that I know when they were casting the parts, they looked at the height difference between the two actors, Ken Foree and Scott Reiniger, and it's quite, it's substantial.
Mm-hmm.
And they still had this really cool vibe, I think, between the two of them, and the way, they had so much fun when they were, well, Roger had too much fun to the point where he got bit. But they had that great relationship.
For sure. Yeah. So that, I think, is the main character notes. I have a few other little notes about some other side characters and things. But
Blades.
Yeah. But that's kind of my main character notes. Do you have anything else on those like main 4?
No. I don't. I don't. I feel like the story was pretty cut and dry. Like I said, I think Romero kept things very simple, which made his movies even more enjoyable. So, yeah, I really don't have any additional notes about the 4 of them.
Cool. My other little character notes. I talked about Wooly and stuff at the beginning. A little bit of the TV station stuff. I think that was cool. We got the quote from the Deadcast stuff.
Yes.
But then kind of following them a little bit. I was like, I'm wondering how, these guys that they're watching on TV, how they've stayed up holding that studio so well, yelling and arguing with each other constantly. But eventually they're done too. Eventually the TV broadcast just stops and never comes back. So their time was limited as well. But I do like that there was kind of a focus on the TV station and those conversations at the beginning and then also through a lot of the movie. Because it's different from the remake where they focus a lot, at least in those little moments. And at the beginning, they focus a lot on like the morality and human response of the beginning of a zombie apocalypse, where they have those like people talking about like, these are not, your loved ones and stuff anymore. And even this one guy, like scientist who's there, who starts talking about like eating the zombies as some form of trying to survive as a human race. And there's a lot of like the moral and ethical dilemmas and things going on there. I love his just like, you got to think logical. And he's like, the other guy tells him like, people don't think that way. People don't. Like, it's just human nature. Logic, it doesn't happen in situations like this. And I thought of those conversations were really interesting.
Yeah, I think that we all like to think that we would react in a certain way. But I think you get caught up in the situation you're in, and those things go out the window. And I think the guy was right to say, you know what, people don't think like that. They're reactionary. They're going to just do what they have to survive. And but you're caught up in this emotion of your loved one coming back to life and not knowing what to do. I mean, if you look at the big picture, I'm sure a lot of people died because they just really didn't know what was happening.
Yeah.
They, their loved ones were coming back to life and biting them. And I mean, that's how they made the whole zombie army, is that people just didn't know, what was really happening. And we'll talk more about that when we cover the 2004 version too, because it's kind of connected with that as well. Yeah.
But then the other only other character stuff is, like you mentioned, Blades and the Raiders, Tom freaking Savini, just so enigmatic and so much fun and so crazy. But that whole group is so crazy and interesting. It starts when Steven is teaching Fran how to fly the helicopter, and of course, and some sketchy dudes see him, and then the sketchy dudes have a big old sketchy squad, and the sketchy squad infiltrates the mall to take it over. And then sketchy squad also, I call them the sketchy squad instead of the Raiders a lot, just in my notes, but they just bring in a bunch of zombies in with them, and then they commence to get all cartoony with them. And it was like a real weird, it's like, what kind of circus sideshow is going on here? Where as we get the Raiders like fighting the zombies, but it's all like real cartoony and goofy. They're literally bonking them on the head with mallets and breaking glass bottles over their heads, pieing them in the face, spraying them with seltzer, like clown.
Oh my
things.
Gosh!
Like you're like, what is going on?
I know. It's silly. But,
It's fun, though.
everything had a purpose, and it's fun. And I think Romero, I feel like he wanted there to be some sort of comic book.
You got to have some kind of like
at times
goofiness and relief too, though. Yeah, it's got to be humor.
And I think that I think he liked that. I think he wanted to bring that. You didn't get that so much with Night of the Living Dead, but I feel like this one did bring in a little bit of humor at times. That's maybe, why I connected more with it and am more endeared to these characters.
Yeah. And I catch the little things.
This element of course you do.
Like, they were like ransacking and running, and then one of the raiders was running out of a store, and the only thing he had with him is just carrying in his arms was a full mannequin. It's like, what do you want with that mannequin? I don't know, but all right, dude, you do you.
I know, it's kind of crazy. But then they just kept destroying things too. Like one guy was taking a TV and realized that he didn't want it.
Yeah, what are you going to watch on that thing? I don't know. Smash.
I don't know. Threw it down. And then he smashed with a sledgehammer this other TV that was there. I'm like, do you really have to be so destructive? You're not putting any good out in the world. You're making everything, negative. So, yeah, I just kept thinking the entire time, you know what? The zombies that you've been letting in, they're going to catch up to you. And then, of course, they did.
Yeah.
It was great.
And, they start getting picked off. Steven gets some of them, but, Peter jumps into action. Yeah, he's that sharpshooter. Just picking them off. Even your Adios, Savini. He has this weird moment. He's like, was he trying to hold a zombie hostage to not get shot for a minute? I don't know. It didn't work at all.
Oh, my gosh. So many things like that, though, happened in that. I mean, you have to watch it a couple of times to actually catch everything.
Oh yeah, there's so many little things.
Kind of chaos.
Like there's a moment I had to take a note. I was like, okay, it's a well-behaved young boy actor that they had some kid laying on the ground, and one of the raiders is literally just slowly sawing his head off with a machete, and I'm like, okay then.
Okay. Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's so crazy.
They were not afraid of the over-the-top gore. There's a lot of children zombies in this movie that there's they didn't care. There's just anybody who wants to put on blue makeup and walk around slowly, and then you have a bunch of squibs built into their clothes and just get bloody. Go for it. I don't care what age, gender, anything about you. Just come in here and we'll bloody you up.
Pake, you would have been first in line.
Absolutely.
You would have been first in line to be turned into a Romero zombie.
Oh, hell yeah.
Absolutely.
So
How much
cool.
fun would that have been? Yeah. I feel like they got paid $1, some pizza, and a t-shirt. Dawn of the Dead t-shirt. They didn't get very much. It's worth it, right? Yeah.
It's payment enough. Being in a Romero movie is payment enough.
Payment enough. Yeah, exactly.
So that's all character notes. And then I've got some fun stuff with zombies, but that's it.
Yeah, I have some fun stuff with zombies. The one other character note I had was basically there was this conversation between a TV. Once everyone was at the mall, they were watching television, and there was a TV commentator talking to a doctor who was Dr. Millard Rausch. It's a scientist. And at one point they're having this conversation. He just basically says, the scientist says, for all I know, it's the brains that are all dead and the idiots are still alive. And that just made me laugh, kind of. I'm not sure why, but it did. Yeah. It just gave me a chuckle. I'm like, oh, yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
But I have so many notes on the effects and the different zombies.
Nice.
I feel like this movie really is about the zombies. There's the characters we've covered, but I feel like there's so much about the zombies that we can talk about in this. And the effects. Savini had a lot of fun with this.
Oh, yeah.
He really did.
Practical effects were off the charts amazing. But again, Savini talked about that. Now, so for... Yeah, gore effects, damn good. It was awesome. The weird purple-blue skin color... I don't think that was a very great call, but it is what it is.
Okay. So I do have notes on that that I might as well talk about now.
Yeah, go for it.
Just because it makes sense. It's actually meant to be gray, but it showed up looking blue. Savini picked gray for the skin because the original film was in black and white.
Yeah.
And then he decided later on that it was a bit of a mistake to do that because it made them look blue.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of a bluish greenish, tint.
It was more distracting than like scary, honestly.
Yeah. It was kind of distracting, but at the time it was great.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, but the effects and stuff, man, just so good that eventually you get used to the weird blue tint on them and you're like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Makes me want to open it in Photoshop and adjust the white balance.
Right.
Try to fix
can we fix
to
it?
be gray. But you can't.
Yeah. I like when they're flying in the helicopter kind of over the countryside kind of area, and then it cuts down to show what they call the rednecks having a good time with this, where people are just kind of shooting zombies.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why, but the scene of the guys are just like laying in the grass and then they're shooting the zombies that are walking over the hill just tickled the hell out of me so much. I'm not sure what it is. It's just them kind of shooting. You see one kind of like take a shot in the shoulder and flinch, and then get hit in the head and fall. And the guys are just like drinking and talking while picking them off. And I was like, I love it. I was like, there's been so many adaptations and evolutions of the zombie genre, and they always have to one-up themselves with the crazy, over-the-top things. And sometimes you just want to watch the classic stuff where it's, guys just sitting there just picking off these barely slow-moving zombies and having conversation while doing it. I enjoy the classic moments like that sometimes. And I loved that.
Yeah, I read something about that, but I can't remember. I feel like they were already on site there doing some work, and so they worked it out for them to do the filming of that.
Yeah, it was fun.
I think that I want to say that the National Guard was really National Guard people that were there. Leave it to George Romero to engineer and make that all possible.
Right. Yeah, I talked about the hangar scene a little bit because there's some great zombie stuff there. The one zombie that stands up on top of the boxes, and then the helicopter blades just kind of give him a
helicopter zombie,
just the tip moment. Just slice off the top of his head.
Yes,
and just kind of. It was a cool little moment. The two child zombies in the closet that Peter has to fight with. He just keeps throwing them on the couch over and over before finally shooting them. It's fun.
Do you know that those were Tom Savini's niece and nephew?
That's awesome.
Yes.
They were good at keeping like a straight face, but like I could also tell like those kids were having a blast with that. They had to. Of course
they were. And they didn't tell Ken Foree that the kids were going to attack him. So that's all real. Like he didn't know they were going to do that. So he was shocked. Like that's it was great. A little surprise.
I love it.
So it was realistic. I mean, the reaction was realistic.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and then the zombie that Steven sucks at shooting, and Roger has to step in and take care of. The makeup on that with like the whole like eye has like melted down the side of his face and stuff.
Yes.
Like, even now that holds up so well to look at and be like, damn, that is good. That is so good.
That artwork was on a lot of the posters.
Yeah.
That one zombie head was like on a lot of the posters at the time.
But yeah, I'm trying to think what other just kind of zombie notes I have, and I'll let you get to your kind of fun stuff you brought. In the mall, the zombies on the escalator, I could maybe just watch that for a while on loop. That was fun.
Wasn't that great?
It's so good. When the escalators start up and they're just, oh, we're going up now.
Yes. A couple of the lead zombies were on there.
Oh, yeah, there's the one guy that we see that featured
the sweater zombie.
He's even on the rooftop at the end. Like, he's one of those. Yeah.
And there's a nurse. Also, there's a helicopter zombie, machete. Yes, the machete zombie, played by Lenny Lies. I think it's Savini, turns around with a machete and smacks him in the head. That's what they call him, machete zombie. The gray suited zombie, which is the one that attacks Steven outside the airport. We talked about Hare Krishna zombie. There's one that's wearing a black and white checkered dress and dragging a toaster. And then the screwdriver zombie, which is the one that Roger gets in the head with the screwdriver.
Screwdriver zombie kills.
Those are just
always
few.
Great. Always. Gotta love those.
Yeah, those are just a few, like, of the ones that you see repeatedly. But Sweater Zombie is one that comes up a lot. And a lot of the names that I just gave them are names that people actually call them.
Yeah, they're like credited as.
Yeah. Sweater Zombie, Nurse Zombie, Machete Zombie. Yeah.
There's some clumsy ass zombies in there too. Did they get credited under that name?
Yes, there are.
There's the zombie that takes the gun away from Roger while they're trying to close the department store door on them. And I was like, oh, zombie's got a gun.
Gun. Oh my God. Peter went through something like that on the roof where the zombie took his gun.
Yeah.
He already had a gun and he dropped his other gun and kept Peter's gun. And Peter just was like, okay, kept going to get on the helicopter.
Mm-hmm. One thing I thought was interesting is they established a couple of times through this movie that the zombies are afraid of fire. But then I don't recall that ever carrying on to the rest of the Romero Dead series. I think this is the only movie where that's ever addressed.
I don't ever remember that being said.
Yeah, because when Fran is with the Hare Krishna zombie and she lights that flare and he's like covering his face and backing away, and then we get them like getting the zombies off of them using the torches as well, like the gas torches.
Yeah, I don't think it ever comes up again.
Mm-hmm. And there's a little moment where we have Peter up on the roof with the tennis balls, and then one of the tennis balls falls off the roof into the zombies. And it's just a little tease. I wonder if that was a small inspiration for one of my favorite scenes of all time from the remake in 2004.
Maybe. Maybe.
And then, of course, the guy who's, for some reason, while he's surrounded by zombies, he decides it's a great idea to check his blood pressure.
I know. But the effect of it, like the whole effect,
that
like
whole
the cuff
scene is
being on his arm,
amazing. And sit still
it's
while
so
we're
good.
But then that ends in a beautiful. I love a good gut ripping out scene with zombies. You can't go wrong with it.
Yeah,
it's always great.
No, you can't. It was great. No, I agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
It was so good.
And then the classic Romero, which this did carry on all the way through Survival of the Dead, is zombies, retaining certain motor skills and things from their lives before and actually adapting. Spoiler, I don't know if we'll cover these movies. We might at some point. We might end up going all the way through all of them.
Yeah.
But I mean, in Survival of the Dead, we get to the point where there's like zombies, I'm air quoting, driving cars, but like those motor skills are there a little bit, where like they know, press the gas pedal and, there's things like that. And so we see that. So when Steven has turned, I mean, he remembers, this wall's fake and I know how to get to the stairwell.
Yes. They hadn't counted on that though.
Yeah.
But again, they hadn't counted on Steven dying. So I don't know that the thought ever really crossed their minds that they would have that situation at all.
Yeah. Yeah, and the only other note I had at all was just that, again, the biggest plot point of both of these movies clearly is the mall.
Yes. It's a character all in itself, right?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that is all of my notes. So I'll let you take it from
Oh my
here.
goodness. Oh my goodness. I don't know if I can handle taking the helm. But so one of the things I uncovered, and this has to do with zombies, is that Savini had a team of only about 8 people to do the effects. There were 200 to 300 extras. And there were different levels of zombies with like some featured or special zombies, the ones that are being shown, close up or on screen more. And then there were the ones that weren't shown as closely. Yeah,
dude, I know it's because I know people who have played extras on The Walking Dead, who have been zombies on The Walking Dead, and so the ones that you see over and over that are featured, at least, Nicotero and the Walking Dead crew refer to those as hero zombies. And so...
Hero zombies, okay. Excellent. All right,
hero
well, those
walkers.
are like,
But then that's like the hero zombies. So the
Yeah.
ones that were heavily featured, I was thinking like, oh, hero zombies. That's what I would call that.
yes.
Walking Dead term.
So Savini is a true master of the craft of creating these effects. And I found some information on some of the different things that he put together for them to be able, for things to look the way that he wanted them to. So when he was creating bites that were part of a character or the zombies, he required, like, they had to cast it in hydrocal. And once it had been created in latex, it was painted more to match the skin tone of the actor. But that's kind of how it's kind of like latex that went over the skin.
Yeah.
For the tearing skin, which we know you liked so much, with the bikers at the end, they used a stretchy latex that pulls and tears, as well as tubing and syringes to pump the fake blood out, which I thought was cool. The blood used was a mixture of food coloring, peanut butter, and cane sugar syrup. And Savini was not happy with the way that it looked.
It's a little orange.
He didn't like the rendering. He thought it was more like magenta, bright, fluorescent. But Romero liked it because he said it made it more comic book like, and that's what he wanted.
It pops
was for it to
for
be.
sure.
Yeah, it pops. So for the exploding head, which is featured in the tenement building, the apartment building, used a fake rubber head that was based on Galen Ross, who played Fran. Filled it with blood bags, pasta, chips, fruit cores, shrimp dip, and pretty much anything that was on the food cart for that day. He placed it onto a full-size dummy, and he was the one who actually shot it to blow it up. So you had to figure he had one chance to get this right. So he threw everything but the kitchen sink in it. So exit wounds were created by using the squibs that you were talking about, which squibs are a miniature explosive device. And they were put inside blood-filled condoms that were connected to the actor. He really does just, throw it all in.
Yeah.
Makes use of what they have available. For the helicopter zombie, they used a friend of theirs who had a naturally low forehead. Then they cast his head and they built it higher. They used fishing line in amongst the latex so that when the line was pulled, the pieces of the skull kind of just pulled off. And then blood was pumped up through 2 tubes in the back to come out of the top of the fake head. Blades were never turned on when they were shooting that part.
It looked so good, though.
I know.
It looked so good.
So for the zombie who got the screwdriver to the head, they had 3 versions of the same screwdriver, with 2 being sawed off at different points. So when the camera cuts away from the real screwdriver, looks like it's going deeper into his ear. But the ear was protected by derma wax, and there was a blood tube hidden in his hair that pumped the blood out. So, yeah, there's that's a whole bunch of the zombie stuff.
Nice. I love it.
There is one other note. During the raid on the apartment building, there's a point where there's a zombie, I think his name was Pilato, comes out and bites his, I believe, wife.
Yeah.
Because she hugs him, and I'm just like, what are you doing? He's dead. He bites her on the neck, but then he also bites her arm. He actually bit over the pack that was on her arm, so it hurt. Like, he caused this little minor injury. So the scream she lets out is real.
Oh, man.
Partially because it hurt.
Wow.
So I thought that was kind of cool. So, yeah. Those are notes that I have on the actual, effects for some of the zombie things. And I thought it was really cool. I mean, Savini really used whatever he had for a resource.
Yeah.
He didn't... He thought very quickly. Because if there was something that they needed, he had to figure it out very quickly. And there was a continuity error where Roger had a jacket around his waist that it was tied. And when they were filming, there was a point where suddenly he didn't have the jacket anymore. So they wanted to fix that continuity error, and that's when they brought in the screwdriver zombie. Was the screwdriver zombie actually pulled the jacket off his waist. And then Roger took care of him and then untied the jacket.
Nice.
So they did pay attention to some of the continuity issues.
There's just the one scene that got away from him, it looks like, that I picked up on. That's how my brain works.
The blood?
Yeah.
Yeah. You gotta leave it to Pake to catch every little thing. I knew you would. I'm not surprised. You're very thorough when we break down these movies. You're very thorough. So those are the notes I have on that. I do have some other production notes. Actually, I have quite a few production notes.
Lots of good stuff. You always bring the goodies.
This one I dug a little deep on, but we'll see where it goes. The idea and the screenplay was influenced by a trip that Romero took them to the Monroeville Mall. He was invited by his friend Mark Mason, whose company managed it. Mason showed him all these hidden parts of the mall and joked, "Oh, someone could, live out for a while if there was a public emergency." And that gave George the idea to come up with a story. And he used his connection to Mason to help secure that exact mall as a filming location. Unable to attract investors for the project, word of this reached Italian filmmaker Dario Argento, who's done some amazing Italian horror movies. He was a huge fan of Night of the Living Dead, and Argento actually invited Romero to Rome to write the script so he would be free from distraction. And he and his brother co-financed the film in exchange for international distribution rights, which also accounts for some of the different... Yeah,
because they got it before we did.
Yes. Yeah, and they did... that accounted for some of the different versions that there are out there. Mm-hmm. There are different cuts. There's like a European cut. There's a Romero cut. There's a director's cut, which I don't know what the difference is between a Romero cut and a director's cut since he's the director.
Right.
So I haven't figured that out yet. That's something I learned when I was reading this. The principal photography took place between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. when the store was closed. Some stores did not exist in the mall, like the gun store. So that was filmed somewhere else. They were recreated. They did not film during Christmas because they got very tired of taking the Christmas decorations down every night and then putting them back up first thing in the morning. So they just finally around Christmas said, okay, no, we're not going to do this anymore. We're shutting down for a couple weeks. So the original screenplay featured the suicide of Fran and Peter. This is where Peter was going to shoot himself in the head and Fran was actually going to walk into the helicopter blades.
That's dark.
But it was scrapped during production.
That's real dark.
Yeah.
And I could see, because
it is.
Night of the Living Dead ends in a real depressing way, so I'm sure...
Real dark. Yes, it does.
There was something, and I was like, what if we don't finish the second movie in just as dark and depressing of a way as we did the first?
Yeah. Yeah, so they changed it. Romero said, no, we're going to change it up. This is what's going to happen. So we did get some hope at the end of that. One thing, in addition to not wanting to scream, Galen Ross requested that Fran be allowed to fight more because she didn't want her character, she didn't want to play a character that couldn't fight the zombies on her own, which I like. I like that she is, this is her first role and she's already asserting some influence.
Yeah.
And being bold and saying those things. And I really appreciate that. These are things I didn't know. I learned a lot while I was doing research to put together the production notes because I wanted to bring some interesting tidbits.
Yeah.
I talked a little bit about the multiple versions. The European cut features more music by the band Goblin. And Goblin is an Italian band that has done soundtracks for a number of horror films.
Cool.
Which is neat. It was released 10 years after Night of the Living Dead, although Romero directed several other films in between, including Season of the Witch, the original The Crazies, and Martin. And Tom Savini provided the special makeup effects for Dawn. It was his 4th film ever. He had worked with Romero on 1978's Martin, and I already mentioned that Romero wanted Savini to work on Night of the Living Dead, but as a combat photographer, he could not. Savini went on to work on horror classics such as Friday the 13th, Day of the Dead, Creepshow, and The Burning. And he also directed the 1990 remake of Night of the Living Dead.
I mean,
which ends a little bit different.
He's considered one of the masters of horror for a reason.
Yes, exactly.
Done some great stuff.
Yeah, Savini was nominated for a Saturn Award for Best Makeup Effects for Dawn. He did not win. However, he did win a Saturn Award for his effects in 1985's Day of the Dead. In addition to the film, he also created masks for the band Slipknot, was approached to make a mask for former WWE wrestler Bray Wyatt, whose character was The Fiend.
That mask was phenomenal.
Yeah, I don't know if he actually made the mask, but he contacted him, so
yeah,
I couldn't find out if he actually went through with creating it.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. Wherever Bray Wyatt ends up next, I hope he keeps that mask and character going, because it was, it's fun.
Yeah. With such a small budget, several involved with the film served multiple roles, including Tom Savini and his assistant Tazo Stavrakis, who were responsible for nearly every stunt performed in the film. When asked about the movie, Savini stated, "When you're born in Pittsburgh, one of the things you want to be when you grow up is a zombie in a Romero film." And I actually have a friend that grew up outside of Pittsburgh and did live out the dream and was in 2 Romero films as a zombie. So that was on his bucket list, and he did achieve that. He was very happy. Many of the extras in the film were just friends and relatives of the crew. George's wife at the time, Christine, did the voice on the pre-recorded announcements at the mall. Ken Foree, who played Peter, was a friend of Dwayne Jones, who played Ben in Night of the Living Dead. And Dwayne encouraged him to go for it when... Yeah, poor Ben. Ben's end in Night of the Living Dead was so sad.
Yeah. And I was going to say, but then Dwayne Jones, that name also then is quite played homage to in The Walking Dead, of course, with the character of Morgan Jones having his son named Dwayne.
Yes. Isn't that cool?
I love it.
Yeah, so Foree told Jones that he was auditioning for the role, and Jones told him to go for it. George A. Romero had 2 cameos. That he was the director in the TV studio, which if you watch it again and you see him, it's just like, oh, that's a young George. Yeah. Like, it's much younger than what I remember. And he also was a Santa Claus biker, which I don't remember, but he was... I have to look again and see where the Santa Claus biker was. But, this Dawn of the Dead was preceded by Night of the Living Dead, was followed by 4 official sequels: Day of the Dead in 1985, Land of the Dead in 2005, Diary of the Dead in 2007, and Survival of the Dead, which was George A. Romero's final feature-length film and was released in 2009. There's also a separate set of Italian sequels that are not connected, including one called Zombie 2, which Dawn of the Dead was released in Italy under the name Zombie, and not with an E. It's Zombi. Many people mention Dawn being better than the original Night of the Living Dead film. I think that depends on who on personal opinion. Yeah. I love Dawn more, but that doesn't mean that it's better. It's just my personal preference. In 2008, it was chosen by Empire Magazine as one of the 500 greatest movies of all time, along with Night of the Living Dead. And the New York Times named it as one of the best 1,000 movies ever made. Zack Snyder directed in his directorial debut, the 2004 remake, and James Gunn, who we all know from Guardians of the Galaxy and The Suicide Squad, and many other films, was the writer. Both Ken Foree and Scott Reiniger appeared in the remake in different roles. Which
is one of those teases I made earlier that things are going to be coming back and we're going to be talking about those next week.
Yes, we are. And then finally, in 2018, Suzanne DeRocha Romero, George's third wife, created the George A. Romero Foundation, a nonprofit that is dedicated to preserving and promoting his legacy, as well as encouraging new generations of filmmakers. And that is all I have. And by all I have, I mean that was a lot.
Yeah, a lot of great stuff. Of course, it's going to be a long one today because it's Dawn of the Dead. We have so much to nerd out about and talk about. So, yeah, I love it. Thanks, everyone, for sticking with us as we nerd out about one of the greatest movies ever made. So, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and I'm already looking forward to covering the 2004 version because there are things I really appreciate about that one as well.
Yeah. Oh, I'm excited. I'm glad we're doing these. So glad we're doing these back to back.
Me too.
Double dipping it.
Yeah.
Sticking with that term. Yeah, I think I like it.
Are you going to play the thingy?
Oh, yeah. What do you mean play? No?
The feedback phone.
All right.
I hope people liked this one. I really am looking forward to the feedback and hearing if people are as nostalgic about it as I am.
Yes. Let's see. What do you got to say about Dawn of the Dead? All right, we've got a good little bit of feedback this week. I'm really excited to open up, answer the feedback phone, open the feedback bag. There's two analogies that don't fit with each other, but I'm using them both because I can. To find all kinds of goodies for us. And of course, we do have a little bit of feedback from last week with 30 Days of Night. And I'm excited to do this. I think it's funny the order we're going to read these is kind of against type for us, which is fun. Because the first one comes from our good friend on Twitter, Tony Douglas. And my treatment of 30 Days of Night is what she's referring to here on that episode last week, where she says, "Oh, payback for not liking the Tomorrow War. I see how it is, Pake." And she completed that with a wonderful Vengeance is Mine gif on Twitter. So if you go to our Twitter, you can see that. It's brilliant. Yeah, I knew as soon as like you were such a big fan of it and we were hyping it up, I was like, and then this episode's going to come out and Tony's going to want to hunt me down.
Yep. You brought it on yourself.
I did.
What you said last week on that episode. You did. So Tony and I were on the same page. So,
but I had some backup. I had somebody with me, and you get to read that one.
Oh my goodness. So Jamie posted on Facebook, just listened to this episode and loved it as always. Pake, I completely agree with you. This movie has always pissed me off. It has signs that it could have been great. Cool vampires, great premise, good effects, but it's just not. There are plot holes you can drive a truck through. It should have been a really cool survival horror movie, but instead we get time jumps and a magical attic the vampires can't find.
Vindicated! I am so...
No. No.
Vindication?
I wonder if Bo would have driven a truck through it.
Probably.
He might have. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. And whether you like things that we like, don't like things that we like, vice versa, other way around, it's okay. We always love feedback no matter what it is. Even if it's feedback where you're disagreeing with us, that can be really fun too. So send it in always. All right. And then for this week on 1978, Dawn of the Dead, we do have some feedback as well. We've got a nice feedback here from Damien, and then we've got some voicemails after that. But our friend Damien writes in and says, "So I just finished watching Dawn of the Dead 1978. Never saw it before this, and I have to say it was very good. It was certainly more about story than zombies, blue and green zombies at that. Slow Romero zombies were entertaining to say the least. One problem I had was with Roger's character. He seemed to flip to a new character once entering the mall. He seemed like he would be a main part of the plot, but turned into a weirdo sidekick to Peter from that point on. even before he lost it driving the trucks. Plus, wasn't he friends with Steven, and that's how he was getting on the helicopter? Seemed like there was more of a bond between Steven and Peter. Anyway, sorry this is long, but I didn't think I could get a voicemail in on time. I look forward to watching Dawn 2004. Talk to you next week. Awesome. So you should have some feedback for next week, too. I'm looking forward to it.
I hope so. I feel like we will, because Dawn 2004 is a movie that really resonated with people or brought people into the zombie affection group, basically.
I think more people have seen it and more people are able to see it because it was a chore to find 1978 to watch it. Yeah, so
it was.
I would say where you could watch it, but I don't want to get things shut down if I can't. Not that it's like illegal or anything.
No,
but
definitely no.
But hit us up on Twitter and we'll let you know where to go for sure. If you want to watch it, we can get you a link or something. Just message us on Facebook or Twitter or something.
Yeah. Yes, we can give you the link.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want anything to disappear.
No.
This is a classic film that everyone should get to see, so we don't want to do anything that's going to get it taken offline.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so next up, we have a couple of voicemails, not just one. We have 2 voicemails this week. The first one is from our friend Eric. Let's go ahead and listen and hear what he has to say.
Hey, Daphne and Pake, this is Eric. Just finished watching Dawn of the Dead, the original 1978 version, and man, it's been at least 15 years since I've seen that. What a joy to go back and watch this movie. I'd kind of forgotten how big the scope of this movie was. It's pretty epic. There's a lot about this movie that I don't know, so I'm really looking forward to hearing your coverage on it. My biggest takeaway after watching this movie was Team Peter all the way. Was so glad that he made it out at the end there. I'd kind of forgotten how the movie ended. And I had also really forgotten how much they played up the zombies having like residual memories. When Peter's running for the helicopter there at the end and the zombie takes the gun out of his hand, I kind of almost halfway expected him to like shoot at the helicopter and take it down and have a mega lowdown bummer ending. But I thought it was also really cool there's some really gruesome deaths in this movie. I think probably my favorite is the biker gang dude who decides for whatever reason to take his blood pressure in the middle of getting swarmed, and then gets ripped apart and his arm's still in the measuring cuff. That was pretty awesome. Also want to say shout out to Jerry. Thanks for giving me a link to the movie. Really looking forward to hearing your coverage.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric, for sending that in. We're glad that you got a chance to watch it.
Yeah, always good to hear from Eric. It's been a little while. He also called into Strange Indeed this week, too, so it was great to hear him over there. Always good to hear Eric.
Yeah. So our next one, what episode? I know we say this every single week. What episode would be complete if we didn't have our Dawn of the Dead 1978 edition of Live Steving?
Hello, Daphne and Pake. This is Steve, and this is, I love you guys. Oh, should I use the word guys? It doesn't matter. But this 1978 Dawn of the Dead is 2.5 hours freaking long on YouTube. Only for you guys would I do this. Oh, smoking while you're at work. I don't know any place that lets you do that anymore. And music by Goblin. I don't know who Goblin is, but okay. Did I ever know this is set in Philly? Dang, that guy was a good shot coming out that door. Right in the head. Is this priest saying that the basement is full of zombies? That's what it sounds like. Of course. And then they all light up cigarettes after they tell them they don't have any. Seriously, that zombie just stepped up too high on the box and a freaking, kids, little kids, zombies. That's not cool, movie. That's not cool at all. I know this guy's name the same as me, but Steve, just stop. Just quit. Give the long gun to somebody else. Let them handle it. Okay, he doesn't have the same name as me. I'm Steven with a V. He's Steven with a PH. Seriously, though, Steven, don't go down there. Let these two guys do it themselves. They might be maniacs, but, they're at least better than you. Okay, how big of an idiot is this guy? I'm sure glad he's not named after me with the PH instead of a V, because it's just stupid what he's doing. Shooting blindly in this, whatever this place is. Bullets are ricocheting. At any point, he could hurt something vital. Stupid. A Christian is zombie. That's pretty resourceful, using the zombie's own screwdriver to kill him. Man, this is tense going back and forth between the guys and the girl who, by the way, Steven, jerk move, you left her defenseless. Well, it looks like they found some Jack, so that's something to be grateful for. Oh, shoot. I know it's been a while, but freaking Roger is a zombie? This really reminds me of Snowpiercer, where, like, the upper echelon are still enjoying all the perks and, like, the good food and the dinners while everything bad is going on. No, do not shoot that door because that one zombie is out there, because that will weaken the door. So just the four of them are now living in this mall. Is it four? Yeah. Wow. Okay, there's way too much time left in this movie for them to just be able to play around in this mall.
Thanks, Steve, for sending in your feedback.
Yeah, thanks everyone. We always enjoy feedback, whether you're calling in, writing in, tweeting at us. Just get to us. We always love hearing from everybody.
And if you'd like to submit your feedback to us, you can do so via our Facebook page at facebook.com/runforyourlivespodcast. You can email us at runforyourlivespodcast@gmail.com. You can contact us on Twitter at RFYL Podcast. You can also reach us on Instagram at runforyourlivespodcast. And if you're enjoying this show, tell your friends. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and pretty much all other podcast players, including YouTube. Go to runforyourlivespodcast.com for all the links you'll ever need. And give us a review on Apple Podcasts, as it's the best way to share the love and get us out there even more. We really appreciate it.
Yes, always appreciate the love. And then, of course, I will give a couple shout outs to all of our podcast friends and other projects going on that we're a part of, going on in the universe around us. My other podcast, Strange Indeed. We are still right now covering Netflix's original limited series, Midnight Mass, created by the incredible Mike Flanagan, who did Haunting of Hill House, Haunting of Bly Manor. We are just huge fans of Flanagan over on Strange Indeed. And so this show, we've covered the first 2 episodes so far, and it has not let us down in any way. It is just as awesome as we were hoping and expecting it would be so far. Loving that. And also, it's kind of a weird dichotomy. It was in the first episode, not the second, because we released 2 in 1 week. But then going forward for the next, few weeks. Also, in the same episode, so, just it's one podcast episode you have to listen to. Strange Indeed. So we're doing Midnight Mass, but then after we finish kind of wrapping up that coverage, there's like a little extra show within the show at the end where Jason is jumping on and joining us, and we are doing a as quick as we can, a little quick version podcast recap of Great British Bake Off, because we are fans of that as well. And it's such a diversion from Midnight Mass, but it's also, with all the shit going on in the world, it's nice to have just some nice British people baking pastries and cakes, and it's just all feel good. So we're doing that too over there. So if you're a fan of Bake Off but don't want to watch anything scary, you can still tune into our Midnight Mass episodes and then just skip to the end and listen to our Bake Off part at the end, because that's always been fun. But speaking of Jason, his other podcast, House Podcastica, is covering What If, him and a rotating group of guests. And then he's over on the Walking Dead cast on Podcastica as well. Him and Lucy are still covering this final season of The Walking Dead. Just a few more episodes left in this section, and then they'll take a little break, and then it'll come back. I'm not sure exactly when, but this final season's cut to like 3 parts. So, a few more episodes left in part A of this final season. They're about wrapping that up. But also they did release recently an episode, just a quick, 30-something minutes, of an interview with Paola Lazaro, who plays Princess on The Walking Dead right now. And that was awesome. She is just bubbly and fun and so cool to listen to. So go check out that interview. It was great. And then speaking of What If, So they're covering that on House Podcastica. If you want lots more awesome Disney coverage with that show as well, Panels to Pixels is covering that, including Daphne doing the last episode that was posted up on there, the What If Thor Was an Only Child episode. She got to join Steve for that one.
That was a ton of fun. For those who don't know, Steve and I covered Snowpiercer on Panels to Pixels back, oh my gosh, it feels like forever ago. I think it was like almost a year ago when we were doing that one. So it was cool to get to podcast with Steve again. And this was a really fun episode of What If.
And then TV Podcast Industries, of course, is also covering What If, and they are also covering Why the Last Man. Loving that show, so definitely check that out. And then Ben, our friend Ben over on Wilhelm, is going to be giving a preview of his upcoming Spooktober episodes. He's got some really fun October Halloweenish plans coming up for Wilhelm, so definitely go check that out and see what he has got on the pipeline.
Yes, I think I'm supposed to guest with him and cover a topic that I'm not going to tell you about because I'm not sure if I should spoil it, so I'm just going to keep it a secret.
So go check out Wilhelm and let Ben tell you.
Yeah, but I'll leave it all up to Ben.
And then, of course, great stuff coming up on great podcasts. Can I toot my own horn like that? What's going on next week right here on Run for Your Lives, Daphne?
It's part 2 of our Double Dip special. Pake wanted to call it that, and I think it has stuck.
Just what I went with, and I'm sticking with it.
So we maybe or are likely going to use it going forward. A band of survivors in Milwaukee take up residence in the Crossroads Mall, while hordes of speedy zombies gather outside. It's all fun and games until Andy gets hangry. Released in 2004, the zombies are faster, more angry, and rapidly decomposing in Zack Snyder's reimagining of the 1978 classic Dawn of the Dead.
Dawn of the Dead! That's my favorite. Again, because we talked about it. This one was your favorite zombie movie. Next week is mine.
It is. It's so funny that it turned out that you liked the new one, I liked the old one, but it's the same, movie. Not the same movie as in everything is the same that happens, but one influenced or inspired the other.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool that it worked out that way.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So the day we're posting this episode is October 1st, and it is one day after International Podcast Day. And so I tweeted out on our social media to some of our favorite podcast friends to just share the love and happiness that is podcasting. And with that, we have reached the end of another fun episode. Thanks everyone for listening. I am Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And if you have to run from your helicopter flying boyfriend who fought a biker gang, lost, and became your blue-green zombie ex-lover baby daddy, you better run for your lives.
Bye-bye.